Today, we are back at John Kufleitner's, located just outside of Salem, Ohio, to take a look at this American icon 1954 Chevy Corvette, which is currently for sale at John Kufleitner's. If you're in the area, be sure to stop by and check them out. Tell them Jay, YouTube Car Guy, sent you there. That's me, I'm Jay. Welcome to What It's Like. This channel, we feature the classics, vintage, some exotics, lots of orphan cars, and cars off the beaten path. We do deep dives on every car featured, lots of period correct ads, specs, and perceptions that other channels don't show. If that sounds like a channel that interests you, subscribe and hit the bell icon to never miss a video. If you'd like to get in touch with me, there are two ways to get in touch with me. You could simply leave a comment in the comment section. I read every single comment that I get on this channel, and I try to answer all of them, especially if they're questions. I answer all the questions. The other way is we recently made a Facebook group that correlates with this channel called What It's Like. I'll leave the link in the description. The cool thing is I'd like it to be a car community. So you could share your rides on there. You could share other YouTube links if you have a YouTube channel yourself. It's not really about me as much as it is about the car community, car hobby. The car hobby is for everyone. So if you want to check that out, there's no obligation to join the Facebook group. I'm just telling you it's a thing. A bit of background. 1953 was the first year of the Corvette, which was introduced in June of 53. I'm not going to tell the whole story. I'm going to leave a lot of it on the cutting room floor, so to speak, because I plan on hitting a 53 sometime. I don't know when. They didn't make that many of them. We'll get to that. The whole premise behind the Corvette came from Harley Earl, who was the head of GM styling section. Earl, Duke of Earl. Ha, I just wanted to throw that in there. I thought it would be cool. Earl was a huge fan of European sports cars like the MG or the Jaguar or Alfa Romeos. In 1951, Nash Motors began selling a sports car made from aluminum called the Nash Healey. Because aluminum was lighter than steel, Earl was peering over the fence, kind of like Mr. Wilson did on the sitcom Home Improvement. And he thought, man, that's an idea. Earl convinced GM executives that that's what Chevy needed, was a two-door sports car of their own. Side note, the difference between a Roadster and a convertible. A Roadster is generally a car that does not have roll-up windows but uses curtains instead, like side curtains. And they're really hard to see out of, and they're a big pain in the butt. Also, Roadsters generally don't have handles, like door handles, to get in and out of the car on the outside of the car. You have to use the door handle from within the car to get in the car. And a convertible has roll-up windows, but there are some exceptions, like the Packard that we did earlier a couple weeks ago. It was called a Roadster. I'm using air quotes, you can't see me, but it was more of a convertible. Anyway, back to the 53 Vet. There was only 300 made in the year 1953. They were designed by Harley Earl, and because they were made of a new type of material called fiberglass or glass fiber, depending on what side of the pond you're on, it was a new material that was being used in 53, and the Corvettes were largely hand-built, so no two from 1953 are exactly alike. All 53 Corvettes were polo white with red interiors. Let's talk 1954 Corvette. It was essentially a carryover design from 53 with some key differences. There was more colors available, 4 colors available, in fact. You had the polo white, pennant blue, sportsman red, black. All cars came with a red interior except for the pennant blue, which got a beige interior with a beige top. All options were mandatory, which doesn't really make them options, right? That's kind of like a feature thing, I would think, but that's the wording that the source said. In other words, all 1954 Vets have the same equipment. Let's talk about the options and why they were mandatory. The options were like windshield wipers, heater, transmission. There was only one transmission on offer. It was the 2-speed Power Glide, and you couldn't get any other transmission, but you had to buy the transmission. Or, I don't know, maybe you could buy the Corvette and not get a transmission and put your own transmission after the fact. The advertised price was $2,774. To make it sound cheaper and more appealing, you always want to read the fine print, because the actual price after all the mandatory options was $3,254.10. And there's a lot of different prices out there. There's a lot of different information about this car. Most consumers saw through the marketing jargon, and sales suffered because of it. The biggest problem the Corvette had was it wasn't seen as a pure sports car because it had a 2-speed automatic and the Blue Flame 6 performance. You have to remember, this car was going up against the MG and the Jaguar XK120, which was the fastest car in the world at that point, and the Jaguar was cheaper than this. Correction, XK140 came out in 1954, and it was faster than the XK120. Okay, moving on to some specs. First generation, aka C1, went from 1953 to 1962. This one rides a wheelbase of 102 inches, is 167.3 inches long, 69.8 inches wide, 51.5 inches tall, and every source conflicts about this, the weight, but I'm going to say it's 2,886 pounds. The average fuel economy was 13.7 miles per gallon. 0 to 60 was 11.2 seconds. Moving on to engine. There was only one engine available in 54, and that was a 235 cubic inch displacement. It was called Blue Flame 6, 3.9 liters. It made between 150 and 155 horsepower. If you bought the car later on in the 54 production run, it made 155 horsepower. If you bought it earlier, it made 150. The reason behind the 5 horsepower gain, they went to a new camshaft, and that power was produced at 4,200 RPM. Torque figure would be 223 on the 150 horsepower version, or 225 foot-pounds, 155 horsepower version. And the RPM range is between 2,400 and 2,800 RPM. Bore was 3.56 inches. Stroke was 3.95 inches. Compression was 8 to 1. It was fed with 3 Carter side draft carburetors. Both the heads and block or crankcase were made out of cast iron. The only transmission that was on offer was the 2-speed Power Glide automatic, which was a $178 option. Think about that. You had to pay to get the standard, the regular transmission that usually comes with cars. It just blows my mind that Chevy or Corvette division made their buyers pay for the transmission that came in the car. So notice this car does not have door handles on the outside. The door handle is actually inside the car. It's this little lever here, this one right here, you just pull it, door opens. Now I want to show you the seating position in here. The Corvette is a lot like the Thunderbird, where the seating position is. That's all the wider the door opens. It doesn't really stay there, but that's how wide the door opens. So one would have to be fairly small to get in it. All right, I'm gonna get in it. And that's the issue you have when you're tall. You have to finagle yourself into this. On to the button switches and knobs. There's 2 knobs here. One of them controls the lights. There's one lever at the bottom of the dashboard there. That opens the hood. The other one, I'm not sure about. I looked for literature on the dashboard and I can't find anything anywhere. So if you know, in the comment section below, right below the speedometer is a brake light. Moving up to the speedometer itself, it's an arch formation. And notice it goes up to 140 miles per hour. It has the odometer there in the center. You can't really see it because there's a glare on it at the moment. This dashboard is laid out pretty weird, as in most of the gauges don't sit right in front of the driver. They actually sit off into the center of the dashboard, and they're 2 tiers. The top row has mostly knobs and or switches, and then the bottom row has all gauges, or mostly gauges, I should say. Starting with the very top, off to the left-hand side, that is for the defroster. You pull it out. Moving down, right below it is the ignition switch. Moving to the right of that, that's the fuel gauge. There is a white knob just to the bottom of the dashboard. That is for the cowl vent. Next gauge is the temperature gauge. The bigger gauge in the center is for the tach. Amp or battery gauge is next to it. The oil pressure gauge is next to that, and the clock is on the end. Just above the oil gauge, that looks like a cigarette lighter. Moving to the left, just above the tach, is the radio with the radio controls. I will say, I love the design of this wraparound windshield. I love the way it looks. I love the way this interior looks. The seats are very upright. I don't know if you can see how upright they are. This is the other issue. This is how much, I don't have any space. The steering wheel is in my crotch. My head is over where the windshield would be. I'm taking my hand, that's my head in reference to the windshield. So if you got in a car accident, this is literally going to come back and decapitate my neck, which is always, you know, a great thing to think about when you're behind the wheel of one of these cars. But I love the way the hood profile or silhouette. I love the way the wraparound windshield is. The rear view mirror is on the dashboard. But here's my knees in reference to the dashboard itself. This car would be kind of hard to drive because it's not very big. You have these pockets on the doors, and it's the whole door inside the door panel. It goes all the way down to the bottom. Ashtray here, and I guess this works as a glove box because it doesn't have a traditional glove box. It has these on both sides, one there, one on the driver's side, and like I said, it goes all the way down inside. It's the doors are hollow, and these are inside of the doors. Ashtray for, like, people would have to be really small. This is the ashtray for the driver, but I'm kind of stuffed in this car. Like, this is what I look like inside of this car. I mean, I got lots of room, but the steering wheel is very upright. You're sitting very upright in this car. This lever here is for the cowl hood vent. This one has it. There's first stop, second stop, third stop, which is all the way open. And just so you can see what that looks like. All right, getting out. The door doesn't stay open. See, and if that dog leg wasn't there, you couldn't get out. It gives it that look, and it's a nice screen to catch the bugs, but bugs can fall down inside there pretty easily because it's not taking up the whole area in which it should. Like every other car that I've seen previous to this car, the screen, or there's a gasket, cowl air conditioning system I call it, it takes up all this space, not letting bugs or creatures get down inside there. All right, there's a button here, and this gives you access to where the convertible top is stored, so you don't have something nasty and ugly just sitting back there. It has a nice cover over it, which is really nice. So there is trunk access, and coming back to the rear back here, I just wanted to show you that your license plate would be displayed behind this glass. Just notice how deep it is. Access to the trunk is actually underneath the bumper. You turned it, and this is your trunk storage section. Lots more trunk space in this model than a 67 model, considering you don't really have access to a trunk in the 67 Corvette. But notice, even down here, it's storage area. Both sides. I just wanted to show you the access, or the load floor in this is really low. Super low, so you could get stuff in here. Golf clubs. This would be a perfect car to go for you and your significant other to take to a picnic if you can fit in it. That's the hood release. Just check that out. It's got tri-power, single master cylinder. Notice how the steering wheel column comes down to the steering box. To me, there's nothing sexier than a inline straight six with tri-power side draft carburetors. The only thing that would make this better is if it had tri-power Weber carburetors. The Webers with the stacks, you'd have another stack here, another stack here, and another stack here, and it would look gorgeous. But this does not look bad either. The battery is down low. The starter right there. All right, on to the pros and cons section. I am getting all of these pros and cons from the complete book of collectible cars, blue chip auto investments, 70 years from 1930 to 2000 by Richard M. Langworth in the Auto Editors of Consumer Guide. On the positive side, very scarce for obvious reasons, high collector demand with extremely strong appreciation potential, large club following, historical interest. It doesn't say that it's a milestone car, but it's a milestone car in my opinion. Against it, they are expensive. Mixed reputation among non-Corvette owners, questionable styling, and different quality. And I'll add another one. They were prone to leaking. Like, that was the number one thing that a lot of people said that they didn't like about it was it rattled, it reeked, it leaked, etc. On to name that tune. First person that could give me the band and the title of the song will be pinned to the top of the comment section. Come on, pretty baby, won't you walk with me? Come on, pretty baby, won't you talk with me? Come on, pretty baby, give me one more chance. Try save our romance, slow down. Baby, now you're moving way too fast. Thank you all so much for watching. If you dig this episode, please give us a like, comment in the comment section below. And until next time, toodaloo!